What's up everyone, I'm Severingo, and we are back with another World of Warcraft Season of Discovery video. Thanks to everyone who answered yesterday's poll regarding what video you wanted to see next. The winner was a quick guide on how to solo Deadmines as a druid for your pre-BIS gear. So that's what I'll be showing you how to do today. Despite the fact that my druid pretty much has best in slot gear, which would kind of trivialize this even further, I wanted to emulate what it would be like as a fresh level 25 with auction house greens and stuff that's not necessarily statted correctly. This video will cover talent choice, gear and rune options, buffs and consumables that you can opt to use in order to make things even faster, and of course, how to stealth through the dungeon and kill the specific boss you need to loot in the safest and quickest way possible. For talents, I'm running the typical PvE Omen of Clarity Feral spec. This allows you to get clear casting procs that can either help burst down enemies faster or make a heal free of charge, which can help with survivability. It also allows you to power shift, which makes killing enemies a lot quicker. For the remaining chapters, let's jump into the run and we can discuss them as we make our way through the dungeon. First things first, you can utilize a logout skip to eliminate the entire run up to the instance. Head to this wooden plank here, and then have your character walk slightly off to where it's floating, and then log out. Upon logging back in, you'll be right in front of the instance. Here's a quick run through of my gear again. It's really not very important as long as you have the strategy and runes correct. Just like consumables or buffs, gear will just help speed things along. I find a feral-focused stamina, agility, strength build to be the easiest for clearing through the mobs prior to bosses, but stacking stamina and intellect can be just as good as it makes you tankier and also allows for more power shifting and spell casts. For runes, there are two phases of this run that you can utilize different sets of runes for. The first phase would be what you would use to clear out the mobs in areas that you'll need to have open for kiting purposes, and then the second is what you will use to actually kill the bosses. A quick side note here now that we're in the run, every single door can be opened from the other side except for the final door prior to the area that you face Smite and Van Cleef, which you need to blast open with a cannon. If you're a night elf, you can just Shadowmeld and wait the 10 seconds before hitting the macro on the screen to instantly shift back into cat and enable prowl to continue onward. If you're a Tauren, you're gonna have to wait until the bosses move far enough away to where you're not going to aggro them. If you do end up aggroing something, skip forward to the part of my video where I go over all the safe spots that you can utilize. The only one that I think gives people trouble is Gilnid here. In this next section, the only thing that you have to know is after taking down these 3 non-elites, grab the Defias gunpowder and immediately stealth, because an elite will come running in and you don't really want to deal with fighting him, even though he's pretty easy to kill. To cover buffs and consumables as fast as possible, they aren't necessary, but something like Boon of the Black Fathom that seems to drop every 2 minutes is really nice because on top of the other stat benefits, the 20% speed boost it provides really helps during the boss fights and generally makes the run take less time and overall go a lot smoother. You can also get things like the Ashenvale 5% bonus damage buff and the Darkmoon Fair 10% bonus, but these really aren't worth the time to go get in my opinion, and if you are going to use them, save them for raids. Other than that, health, mana pots, and bandages are always nice in a pinch in case of emergency. Water because you'll run through mana quickly between pulls, and maybe a swiftness pot if you really want to get fancy, but none of these are necessary. Finally, we've reached the area with Mr. Smite and Edwin Van Cleef. So let's get back to runes. The first phase involves clearing the mobs leading up to each boss. You can probably skip some of them, but the difference in time is nominal, and I always prefer to keep things as safe as possible because the walk back from the graveyard is brutal. For these mob killing phases, I'd recommend using Mangle, Wild Strikes, and Savage Roar because killing mobs in cat will burn them down the fastest. You can also opt for a slower burn with Bear Form, and you can use Survival of the Fittest or Wild Strikes there. It just allows you a little bit more leeway if you need to get a heal off, but I like to just use the safe spots if anything goes wrong, and remain in cat form. One of the safe spots is showcased right here. If you jump onto this plank where the 3 torches are, the mobs won't hit you, and eventually they'll reset. You can also utilize a fence kiting spot and then have a ranged build with any combination of Survival of the Fittest, Fury of the Storm Rage, Sunfire, Wild Growth, and Star Surge. For the sake of this video, I wanted to spend some time showing this fence kiting technique. So the time it takes me to clear all these mobs in order to get to Smite is a little bit longer than it should take you, and once you're used to all the spots, it's very rare that you're ever going to die. From this area, if you ever want to get back to the plank where they evade, Just be careful that they're not running under you as you go over, because they'll be able to melee you. So a big pack can definitely kill you if you don't time it right. By using this spot in cat form, I'm just letting my energy pool so that I can use Mangle more times, which allows me to kill them easier. Finally, with all the mobs cleared, we've reached Mr. Smite. I swapped to Fury the Storm Rage, or you can opt for Survival of the Fittest because you probably won't be getting many Wraths off, and then Sunfire and Star Surge. Pull his 2 minions, and then run back to this area where you can use a strafe jump to make them run back and forth. It can be a little bit finicky, so sometimes I just like to walk forward and backwards once I'm on top of it, and if it gets really bad, you can run across the way to the other ledge, and that one works just as well. That's pretty much the fight. Just make sure that Smite doesn't get near you, even under you, because sometimes, as you'll see in this video, he'll chunk you for a massive portion of your health because a lot of the hits that he was supposed to do will finally end up hitting. At 66 and 33% of his health, he's going to stun you and go to his chest to grab a new weapon. As long as he's far enough away from you, you don't have to worry about this at all. It's just a little bit annoying. And eventually, everyone will go down, and you can check out to see if you got your Smite's hammer. You can also opt to bring them to the fence kiting area I mentioned earlier. For Edwin Van Cleef, it's very similar. You're just going to want to clear both of these top decks. The Feral build is probably the most effective, and then you can utilize a bunch of save spots in case you bite off more than you can chew. There will be time codes for each of these once I upload the video. Once the 2 decks are clear, it's time for Van Cleef. Swap back your runes to what you use to kill Smite, and it's a very similar fight. You can either include Captain Greenskin or not. I chose to kill him after this, so just wait for him and his patrols to walk past, mark Van Cleef so you can see him through walls, and then open up with a Star Surge and some Sunfire. Then drop down to this outer ring. At this point, Van Cleef will go the long way to come get you. He runs faster than other mobs, and his stealthed mobs move very slowly. So depending on if you have Boon of the Black Fathom or not, you can be a little bit more aggressive, and you'll find that you can continue to hit him in certain areas as he runs by. Here you'll see the stealthed mobs. You don't have to worry about them too much, but just be cognizant of where they are. And it's essentially just a big game of Ring Around the Rosie until he goes down. Use your best judgment, but you can have 1 or 2 guys hitting you in order to get more hits onto Van Cleef. The only other thing I'll note is similar to when Smite hit me. If you're standing under this deck right here, don't walk under it when there are mobs walking above you. Let them walk past and then go under. And that's it. Once he's down, walk over to this cannon, which is a safe spot, and then wait for them to reset. If you want to do the exact same thing with Captain Greenskin, be my guest. You can get the Emberstone staff if that's what you want, but it's all up to you. Last but not least, let's go over all the useful safe spots in the entire dungeon that you can utilize in case things get messy. First up, every single minecart can be used as a safe spot against melee, as long as you have enough distance from them. Moving into Rhahk'Zor's room, you can jump on these boxes to get away from melee as well, but it's a bit finicky. I would recommend just using the one behind the pipe here because it's a lot more consistent and you can get away from anybody. In Sneed's room, the Goblin Woodcarvers have a ranged axe toss that will knock you down and stun you, so the best reset spot to use that will evade everything is right here on this ledge. In Gilnid's room with a hanging furnace, you can jump onto these chains here to evade enemies. Once they reset and you want to jump down, make sure you don't jump until enemies aren't around you, and don't stealth until you hit the ground and take fall damage, otherwise you'll be knocked out of stealth. There's the one that we already mentioned on this plank with the 3 torches here, and then every piece of wood jutting out of the boat is one as well. The one that most people know is right here on the big ol' wheel. Sometimes you just have to line of sight from the casters because they can still get you. The big cannon I just jumped from is not a safe spot, but the cannon I just jumped on is. Right here is a little bit of a shortcut. You could also use it to kite enemies back and forth, but it's a little bit persnickety, so I don't really recommend it. Just like the other side, you can jump onto these cannons over here, and they work just as well. It really all comes down to knowing what tools you have at your disposal, so that if something unexpected happens, you could just utilize something on the fly. Like jumping down here, for instance, you know that it causes them to run all the way around as opposed to going directly to you. This gives you a lot of time to do something. So when you put it all together, you know that you can be chased by a bunch of people and just hop on over to the nearest safe spot, and then you're back in business. I don't really see this being used over any of the other ones, but if you have to get on top of this house, you can. There you have it. Hopefully that all made sense. I know the camera angles got a bit wonky at times, especially with the videos sped up. I just wanted to keep it as brief as possible while still fitting in the necessary info. As of the time I'm finishing up this video, the poll was swapped to having the Rogue PvP guide take the first place position, so that'll be my next project. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to support the channel, likes, comments, and subscribing really do mean so much to me and keep me motivated to continue getting videos out. Regardless, this has been such a fun undertaking, and I want to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for tuning in so far. It's my goal to be as accommodating as I can when it comes to making videos and guides pertaining to what you guys are interested in and looking for, so participating in things like that poll from yesterday is a great way to boost the odds of me doing that. Hope you're all enjoying the end of the first phase. I can't wait to see what Blizzard has in store for us. See you real soon with a Rogue guide. Peace.